Is the NIT Selection Special. Yeah, we're in a dancing mood. There may be another tournament with 68 other teams, but 32 get a second chance at a dance. Welcome into the NIT Selection Special in alphabetical order. He's Chris, I'm Matt, and look, more basketball, never a bad thing here. Some teams might not be in the tournament they wanted, but still something to win here.
Yeah, and that's the coaching challenge. You know, it's ultimately allaying your teams of that disappointment and the opportunity to go compete for a championship. And I think to be able to do that, trip to New York City, I think that's a good thing. And
it'll be a new look tournament as well. 32 teams, as always, a trip to New York and Madison Square Garden on the line. But there are some rule changes, some experimental rule changes that are going to be used in this 2018 edition. How about 4 10-minute quarters instead of those 2 halves? The AA is 12 feet, so it's the NBA width. 3-point line extended by a foot and 8 inches. That's FIBA's in an international play. And the shot clock resetting to 20 seconds after an offensive rebound. What do you make of the rule?
Well, I like the lane widening. I think anything that creates more space, contact in the paint, contact in the lane, clogging of the lane, I think is a drain right now in our game. And I do like the 4 quarters. Anytime we have an opportunity to reset fouls at the end of each quarter. Now, the TV folks may not like it. It does eliminate the TV timeout, but I like resetting the fouls at the end of the quarters.
All right, let's run through this bracket. I'm going to try something new and do it in bracket format. This is the top left, upper left. First round games, March 13th and 14th. That's Tuesday and Wednesday. Notre Dame gets a 1 seed as one of the first 4 out of the NCAA tournament. Notre Dame will take on the Hampton Pirates, which lost the MEAC championship game. Head coach Edward Joyner Jr., Jermaine Morrow averaging 19 a game. And then you see Penn State getting the 4, Temple getting the 5 seed. Penn State went 9-9 in Big Ten play, beat Ohio State 3 times this year. And the Fighting Fran Dumfies in again in the postseason.
Well, look, Notre Dame, the story has been recounted. They are at full in stretches. It's one of the reasons they end up losing to Duke. Really, that defense failed them. And Penn State, when you got a guy like Tony Carr, you got a shot in any tournament.
He averages 19 a game. A reminder, the better seed hosts each first round game. So Notre Dame will host Hampton. They could host through the quarterfinals unless there is a conflict with arena sites. We'll pass those along if they become an issue. Penn State hosting Temple. We move on down the left-hand side. Oregon out of the Pac-12, Final Four a season ago, 22-12. They'll take on the MAC regular season champs, the Rider Broncs, which lost in the quarterfinals, Demencio Vaughn and company. And then the number 2 seed in this region, Marquette, will take on Harvard, the champs out of the Ivy.
You've got 2 Duke former defensive player of the years in that bottom matchup there. Harvard, terrific defensively. Marquette, outstanding guards who can really shoot. And Oregon, a young team, an opportunity to learn how to win in this type of tournament environment. Finding the silver lining.
Very good. I like that about you. So it could be Marquette and Oregon, Penn State and Notre Dame if that were to hold chalk. Moving on down on the left-hand side. Baylor gets the number 1 again as one of the first 4 teams left out of the NCAA tournament. Manu championship game, Northeast Conference. Head coach Bashir Mason, Blake Francis can really fill it up. Got a chance to watch them this year. And how about this? Mississippi State, 9-9 in the SEC. They're going to host Nebraska, which gets a 5. There was a thought out there Nebraska was a bubble team and had a chance. By this metric or by this seeding, they had no chance.
Well, that campaign was headed by Seth Greenberg. But and look, 13 wins in the Big Ten. I know the Big Ten is down, but I am with you. If there's an underseed in that tournament, in this tournament, that is an underseed. But I do like Baylor, a team that when Manu Lecomte plays well, when he's at his best, that team can really play.
Nebraska, 3rd most single-season wins in school history. First Big Ten team to win at least 20 games and lose fewer than 7 league games and miss the NCAA tournament. Last portion of the left-hand side. There you see Middle Tennessee, the Blue Raiders out of Conference USA. Kermit Davis scheduled to join us. Facing the Vermont Catamounts, 15-1 in league play in the America East. They were the regular season champs. Again, the regular season champs get the automatics into the NIT if they fail to win their conference tournament. They lost in the America East Championship game. And there you see Louisville, Northern Kentucky, going to take the 90-minute trip to Louisville. Northern Kentucky was the Horizon League regular season champ.
This is one of the most talented fields we've seen in an NIT in a while, and Louisville heads that list. I mean, that was a potential Final Four team before all the chaos coming into this season. And that top matchup, Middle Tennessee, Vermont. Middle Tennessee, a team I thought should have been in the main field, and Vermont, a team that has dominated that conference, lost on the buzzer, put them in this NIT.
Middle Tennessee had 12 true road wins. They will get to host there as long as they keep winning. Well, as long as they win that game, might have to head to Louisville. That's half of the bracket. Again, the bubble was fairly strong for the NCAA tournament. That caters to a pretty strong NIT field.
Yeah, I mean, look, a Notre Dame team that I felt was a top 35 team, right. Top 32 team could have been in. You look at USC, which we'll get to here in a little bit, finished second in the Pac-12, ended up in that final against Arizona. We already talked about Louisville, the bottom of that next bracket coming up. You've got teams like LSU and Utah, and then St. Mary's. So I think this is one of the most talented NIT fields we've had in a while.
Again, we'll see. We showed you half of the field in the NIT. There are 32 teams, 16 teams left. We will go down the right-hand side. Who's in? We know Baylor is going to be in. Notre Dame is in. What about the rest of the right-hand side? And we will talk with the head coach of Middle Tennessee, Kermit Davis, left out of the NCAA tournament. What are his thoughts of getting in the NIT?
NIT Selection Special is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Angry Orchard Hard Cider. Naturally taste the rainbow.
About half the teams that have won the NIT have been in the tournament the following year. Tap ahead by Robinson. Parrish gets to throw it down. A steal by his brother Josh. And a windmill dunk. There's the punctuation mark. The Horned Frogs are the champions of the NIT.
TCU won the NIT last year, made it into the NCAA tournament. Again, kind of hit or miss sometimes. You see the last 5 NIT champs. Did it springboard them into greater success the next season? It's inexact science, to say the least.
This is all inexact. This is all inexact science.
That is well said. 32 teams. We've unveiled the first 16. Let's go down the right-hand side. This is top right. USC getting a 1 seed. Again, 23-11. They will host UNC Asheville. The regular season champs out of the Big South had a chance to see them out. Thomas, Messio Teague. Those guys could fill it up. Western Kentucky, at-large team out of Conference USA. Head coach Rick Stanberry, senior Justin Johnson. There will take on Boston College, who went 19-15. Jerome Robinson can fill it up for head coach Jim Christian.
And BC in the ACC, Western Kentucky. That's a great first-round matchup. And then USC, a team that was preseason top 10, incredibly talented, really good size. Team I thought should have been in the field.
In the Pac-12, Chimezi Metu company, Coach Andy Enfield headed to the NIT. We move on. Down the right-hand side, we encounter another Pac-12 team in the Stanford Cardinal. Went 11-7 in the Pac-12. Reed Travis and the Cardinal will face the 6-seed BYU. Stanford hosting BYU there, and head coach Dave Rose, who went 11-7 in the West Coast Conference. Moving on down, the number 2 seed, Oklahoma State. Shot, RPI might have done them in. They'll take on Florida Gulf Coast, the Atlantic Sun regular season champs. They lost in the conference tournament championship game.
Again, it speaks to the talent in this tournament. In Oklahoma State, of all of their resume, the fact that you sweep Kansas during the regular season speaks loudly. And Florida Gulf Coast, I mean, Brandon Goodwin, about 18 a game. They are incredibly athletic and a team.
Joe Dooley. All right, a couple of more groupings of 4 teams, quadrants to get to. We knew St. Mary's would be a 1 seed because they were one of the first 4 left out of the NCAA tournament. The Gales out of the West Coast Conference. Jack Landale went 28-5. They'll take out Southeastern Louisiana. They will host the Lions, the Southland regular season champs. They lost in the Southland Conference Championship game. Jordan Capps averaging 13 a game. And Boise State is the 4 seed, 13-5 in the Mountain West Conference. Head coach Leon Rice, great player Chandler Hutchinson. But they will travel to 5 seed Washington because there is an arena conflict there in Boise. Mike Hopkins, head coach, got a nice win. Went into Kansas. Nice first year there for Coach Hopkins.
Yeah, I mean, considering what they lost and what he walked into, an unbelievable season for him. They match up against the good Boise State team with Chandler Hutchinson, and then Jock Landale, one of the 5 best players in this tournament. They control the game, much like Virginia does with their defense. St. Mary's does tempo-wise with their offense.
We move on down the right-hand side of the NIT. These are the last 4 teams to mention in the NIT. LSU gets a 3 seed. They will host Louisiana. LSU, Tremont Waters, Will Wade, the head coach there in his first season with the Tigers, went 17-14. They'll take on the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, the Sun Belt regular season champs. They lost 18-2 in league play. And Utah, 11 wins in the Pac-12. Coach Larry Krzyzewski, Justin Bibbins averaging 14 a game. They'll face UC Davis, the Aggies out of the Big West. They were the regular season champions in the Big West before losing in the conference tournament semis. 22 wins on this season. So that is the field. Pretty strong field. Your thoughts?
Yes, it is. It's again, I think it is one of the more talented fields, and you've got several teams in there, like the Louisvilles, the USCs, where there were great expectations. For whatever reason, you've got some things along the way that created some chaos, I think affected their overall body of work. You've got really good players. Jock Landale, Tremont Waters, you just mentioned, going to be one of the 5 best players in this tournament. So I think it's a loaded field. And I know, again, some of these teams probably disappointed they didn't make that NCAA tournament, which will be a coaching challenge. But the opportunity to play for a championship, get to New York City, you can't pass that up.
You mentioned some of the disappointed coaches. Perhaps one of those, Kermit Davis, head coach here for Middle Tennessee, went 24-7 on the season, and he joins us now in the NIT Selection Special. Kermit, thank you so much for the time. Before we get to the NIT, you're left out of the NCAA tournament. What message do you think you received or you felt with your exclusion from the NCAA tournament?
Well, you know, we all have a chance to play our way in, and I'm really proud of our team. I mean, on March 1st, we beat Western Kentucky in front of about 11,000 people here, clinched our championship, and was ranked in both polls, 24th in the AP and 23rd in the coaches. And 6 days later, you know, we didn't play our best basketball and we're out. So it's a fine line. But I'm proud of our team. I know one thing, we're prepared to try to play in the NIT, and I agree with you. I've been following college basketball like you guys for a long time. It's one of the best fields that I've ever seen in the NIT bracket.
Kermit, the challenge for a program like yours and any mid-major to schedule is incredibly difficult because you're afforded really no mulligans in conference. How do you reevaluate how you schedule going forward based on the decision?
You know, I just met with my ED, Chris Massaro, after we got through. I said, Chris, would we do anything different? We said no. I mean, we played the 9th toughest non-conference schedule in college basketball. We had 12 road wins, which is the most in college basketball. What we didn't do, we went to the Diamond Head Classic, and we had great opportunities down the stretch to beat USC and Miami, and we didn't close them out, you know, and we won at Vanderbilt and beat Ole Miss, which you thought would be quadrant 1 wins, and both of those teams who usually have really good teams, maybe not the year that they would have liked. So, you know, we play Murray State, we play Belmont, so our non-conference schedule is fine. It is kind of perplexing going forward exactly what you do, you know, to try to get a mid-major team in a large berth.
Well, spinning it forward here, Kermit, as you head now to the NIT, what's the sense you get from a program that's been in the last couple of NCAA tournaments, beating Minnesota, getting that upset over Michigan State? Now you're in the National Invitation Tournament. What's the sense of motivation you get from your club?
Well, it should be. I know, you know, Giddy Potts and Ed Simpson are 2 guys been in our program for 4 years, and they've got 99 career wins, and they've got to get one more to break the all-time wins record. That's motivational in itself, and I know I have a lot of respect for Vermont basketball. John has done an unbelievable job with his team. They got 5 guys that average and double figures, and it's a team that if they'd have won their conference tournament would have had a chance to win a first-round game. So I know our guys. I know I'm extremely excited. I can't wait. The last time we were in NIT was 2012, and we beat Marshall and went on to win at Tennessee and got beaten in an unbelievable game here against Minnesota to go to New York. So I'd be shocked if any college player is not revved up and ready to go in this tournament.
Kermit Davis, head coach of Middle Tennessee in the NIT. Thank you, Kermit, for the time. We appreciate it. Best of luck in the NIT.
Thanks, guys.
Kermit Davis, head coach of Middle Tennessee, and some notes here on the NIT. Again, 21 different conferences representing. Get those AQs, get those at-larges. Again, the AQs are the regular season conference champs that do not get the AQ or do not make the NCAA tournament. You see 7 former NIT champs are in the field. 46 NCAA tournament bids the next season. Kermit Davis certainly hoping that that is the case going into next year. So all 32 teams have been unveiled. We talked to Kermit Davis. We'll take another look at the field of 32. And Chris Spatola will.
NIT Selection Special is brought to you by Walt Disney World Resort, Sonic, where real ice cream slushes, shakes, and floats are half price after 8 p.m. And Angry Orchard Hard Cider, naturally refreshing.
The one opportunity to play the song Dancing in the Dark, and we really dropped the ball here. Matt Schick, Chris Spatola, we've unveiled the 32 teams in the NIT, and one of those 32 teams is Oklahoma State. Head coach Mike Boynton Jr. joining us now here at our NIT Selection Special. Mike, appreciate your time here tonight. How would you just characterize the emotions of not getting into the NCAA tournament, but having a chance at some more basketball in the NIT?
Yeah, man, it's really hard. You know, we're talking about young kids, right? And they work really hard from day one, and a big part of their goals is to be playing and hear their names called today and to be a part of what I consider the greatest event in sports, the NCAA tournament. But at the same time, we have an opportunity to extend our season, to continue to represent our great program here and all the fans of Oklahoma State and alums. And we certainly look forward to doing that against a really good Florida Gulf Coast team when we find out when the game will be.
Mike, I used the phrasing earlier, coaching challenge, pivoting, especially for a program like yours who was on that bubble, pivoting to the NIT. What do you tell your team? And what did you tell your team when you were watching, I assume, the Selection Sunday special and then having to pivot to the NIT?
Yeah, we watched it together, obviously in anticipation. We saw some of the results over the weekend that we knew may have an effect on us, but quite honestly, we weren't quite as close to the bubble as we thought we were, not even being one of the first 4 out. So at the same time, while we were disappointed, we know that it's a very great field in this event. The opportunity to continue our season, to play really quality teams, all who've had really good seasons so far, is a great one. And we've got really good kids, which is the only way that you can have success that we've had with all the noise around our program for the last 12 months is to have really good kids. And so I'm really excited to coach them some more, to practice with them some more, and to go out and see them compete a little bit more for the next couple of weeks.
Mike, last thing, you had 2 wins over Kansas. You also had 2 wins over an Oklahoma team that you saw get into the field. What message do you think was sent with that selection and your exclusion?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really speak to what the committee thought. Obviously, there were some things that they didn't like about us, and from the seeding that Oklahoma got and us not being one of the first 4 out, we weren't really in the same conversation with them. So I don't know if it had much to do with them as much as, obviously they didn't think that winning against Kansas twice, once in Allen Fieldhouse, winning at West Virginia, beating Florida State on the neutral court, beating Oklahoma twice, beating Texas Tech, who, was a 4 seed or whatever they are, or 3 seed event. So we'll get back to work. We look forward to, like I said, representing this program. We have an unbelievable basketball program here in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and we have a chance for the world to continue to see what we're capable of.
A few minutes to stew, and then it's time to get ready for FGCU. Oklahoma State gets a 2 seed in the NIT. Michael Boynton, appreciate your time here and your candor. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
That is a tricky issue when you are trying, as we look through the brackets here, you're trying to get your team ready for postseason, but it's probably not the postseason you were hoping for, especially a team like Notre Dame, too.
Well, there are a lot of things that I disagree with vehemently. But again, it's going to take a really, really good basketball team to win this NIT.
And with the way the regular season went, you saw some of those AQs, those regular season champs. Best team. That couldn't be further from the truth.
No.
With the way the NCAA works and the way you get into that tournament here, and look at a team like Marquette, 19 wins on the season in a very tough Big East, taking on regular season champ out of the Ivy, Harvard, Tommy Amaker, Wojo going toe-to-toe. Who's Coach K picking in that one?
I don't think he's picking.
Staying away.
Stay away from that one.
Saw Wagner in person this year. Has a very good defensive-oriented team there as they take on Baylor as we work our way down the left-hand side. Baylor will host. Again, there are 4 1 seeds here in this 32-team tournament. Bottom left-hand quadrant, Middle Tennessee. We talked to Kermit Davis. They will take on the Catamounts of Vermont, then Louisville and Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, that Middle Tennessee-Vermont game is going to be an hellacious game. I mean, I think that's one of the best in this first round. You've got, again, a tournament team in Middle Tennessee with high major talent.
Right-hand portion, USC, one of the first 4 teams left out of the NCAA tournament. They get a 1 seed, and they will host the regular season champs out of the Big South, UNC Asheville. Macy with Asheville, a fine season, came up short in the conference tournament. You saw it Western Kentucky and Boston College. See Oklahoma State, talk to Mike Boynton, got to get his team ready to go as they host FGCU. And BYU and Stanford, a little West Coast battle there.
Yeah, again, Oklahoma State, there may be no team in this tournament that has better marquee wins. Now, profile's a different question, but that team, that game against Florida Gulf Coast will be up and down, will be fun to watch.
Moving on down the right-hand side, St. Mary's gets a 1. They will host Southeastern Louisiana. The Lions lost in the Southland Conference Championship game. Boise State will travel to Washington. There's an arena conflict there, so the better seed goes on the road. Boise State and Washington. Head coach Mike Hopkins. Nice first season with 20 wins with the Huskies. In your final quadrant, your final 4 teams, LSU and Louisiana. Louisiana not traveling too far there. And Utah and UC Davis. Your first round TV action. It gets underway Tuesday night, 7 Eastern, Northern Kentucky and Louisville. Wagner and Baylor, they're all on ESPN networks. You're going to be doing some studio NIT as well. Belmont, Northeastern, Old Dominion, Maryland. Some of those first 4 teams left out, according to Selection Committee Chair Reggie Mitten. Spoke to him earlier tonight. All right, give me your pick here in the NIT.
I think Notre Dame. They've got the best player in the NIT tournament, and I think they end up cutting down the nets in New York.
All right. Notre Dame, again, had they had Bonzie Colson, Matt Farrell for the full complement of the season, they might be in the NCAA. Still something to play for here. Destination MSG. Let's dance.